Welcome to the Omnibus Show, a program for people who are interested in everything, with deep conversations on a wide variety of subjects. And now your host, Dave Gibbs.
Well, hello, and welcome to this episode of the Omnibus Show, the program for people who are interested in everything, with deep conversations on a wide variety of subjects. This episode's guest is Dr. Terry Gibbs, who happens to be my brother. He is an OBGYN in the Toledo, Ohio area and has 35 years of practice in the medical field. He graduated from Des Moines University College of Osteopathic Medicine in 1983. Dr. Gibbs has been affiliated with ProMedica Toledo Hospital and ProMedica Flower Hospital, and more recently ProMedica Defiance Regional Hospital. He also has a podcast, Sex Ed for Sex Med. Dr. Gibbs started the premiere episode of Sex Ed for Sex Med in June of 22 with international expert Dr. Sheryl Kingsberg discussing the need for sexual education with patients. He's a director of the Ohio Sexual Health Collaborative, which is a multidisciplinary membership organization of sexual health providers in Ohio who are dedicated to the comprehensive and collaborative advancement of sexual health for women. The collaborative underwrites his podcast. On the show, he interviews medical professionals and discusses subjects as impact of medical disorders, pelvic floor physical therapy, sexual health during pregnancy and postpartum, impact of menopause, and many other topics. Welcome, Terry. It's great to have you today.
Thanks, David. Appreciate seeing you. It's a little bit different seeing you this way, but it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, it's great having you here. Well, here in Chapter 1, we start off discussing milestones, and you've had, with that many years of practice and working on your podcast, you've really done a lot, and you're the number of people you've helped bring into the world is just amazing in the Toledo area. So starting off, could you give us your milestones of practice, which would include your practice and the podcast, and tell us about that on your journey?
Well, it really started out in the second grade. I was in the hospital briefly from an injury and decided I wanted to be a doctor. And then I got to college and the interest grew. And then I was just interested in science, and I became very interested in genetics, and then got into grad school and did a master's in medical genetics, and then figured out I really wanted to be a clinician, then went to medical school. And while I was in medical school, the doctor that delivered you and I, good friend of our family, really said, hey, take a look at obstetrics and gynecology. And I wasn't thinking of that, but I did, and spent some time with her and became very excited about all that. And so we pursued, after medical school, a specialized training in OBGYN. And when you're doing that, it's you're just learning everything. And I really thought that what I would do in that case would be just become an obstetrician and just be into obstetrics. But as I went through my career, in fact, in 2002, became very interested in menopause medicine, because I was very stunned at how little information patients had about the menopause change. And if you think about women, they go through two huge hormone changes in their life. Number one, puberty, which our pediatric colleagues do a very good job at. And then they go through menopause, and we do a horrible job at. If you get on the internet, I mean, there's 50 million opinions as to what you can do. And so we just had no information for people. And so I got involved with some groups that were working on that. And my first meeting was 2002. And it was very eye-opening. So that's how I got into menopause medicine.
Well, that's great because you found a need, and with all that you've done, I know working with babies. You're going out at all hours to hospital, and that's quite a commitment. And then as you raise your own family as well, and then as you say with the menopause, and I know you've now worked with women throughout that whole period timeline of their health. And not being a woman, that's just kind of fascinating of the other. But I think the more you can help with people, and help them with information on their own health, that can only be very good and even better. And I think as technology grows, and as we've increased in knowledge, this can only help people who can get online and hear your podcast or talk with their doctor and discuss these things and more openly. And wouldn't you say that, I should ask, are your patients being more proactive rather than just coming to doctor and fix me? They're studying for themselves. They're listening to your program, and they're being more proactive with their own health.
I think that the thing is this is there was a great dearth of just people didn't know about what to do. And if you really spend any time with anybody who's gone through the menopause, about half the women will go through it and kind of like not have a big problem with it. But the other 50% of women going through it can have a horrible time and really need treatment. And the thing is, our women are looking into it for sure. But when they go online, they find 50,000 ways, 50,000 opinions. And then the real problem is when they go to their doctor and say, boy, I don't know exactly what to do. The doctor doesn't know either, because it's a subject that's just not presented in medical school or in the residencies, even in the OBGYN. Here are the people taking care of women, and there's very little training in menopause for these people. And that's where, our podcast got started. I was aligned with a number of professional groups, including the Ohio Sexual Health Collaborative, which really, most of these people were into menopause, but we were looking very specifically at sexual medicine, which is actually a measure, scientifically, it's a measure of quality of life. And again, very little information about what to do for problems, what are the problems, and why are the problems there, and how can you fix them. And so I was in this group, and that's where I got the idea we ought to just do a podcast. And there's a lot of podcasts out that are really directed for the consumer, for women. And my podcast is really kind of more focused on the trainee, and so that they'll get information, good information, evidence-based information, so they can help their patients when their patients come.
More like in a business sense, business to business rather than business to customer.
Right.
People can listen, but it's really focused.
Yes.
I'm hearing you on the medical professional, and to help inform them to be a better doctor.
Exactly.
That's a fabulous thing. You're going into your second year on the program, and
yes.
I find it interesting. I earlier mentioned Dr. Kingsberg, and that's great that you started out with the conversation on discussing, the need for the sexual education with their patients, and
it's an edgy subject, and there's kind of a taboo, and people are uncomfortable talking. And in very large studies, we have found out that women really want you to ask them about it because they have issues, but they don't want to bring it up because they think you'll kind of shame them.
Yeah.
So they want doctors to ask them about it because there are lots of issues. And especially at midlife, women have had a very healthy sexual life, and boom, all of a sudden there's changes that aren't good for that life, and they don't know what to do about it. And so it's just one of those things that people really want you to ask about. And so if doctors don't know anything, they're certainly not going to bring it up.
Yes, that's very true. And do you, with the upcoming season, do you have a particular pathway of programs that you
Yes.
would like to discuss?
Yes, and we actually took a curriculum suggested by one of the societies, and that broke it down into subject matter, and really endeavored to get Ohio. It's the Ohio Sexual Health Collaborative. So we endeavored to get Ohio specialists, and in this group of people, most of the people I talk to are mainly in this collaborative, because we have people that are experts in so many different fields, and we were able to talk scientifically what's the issues, and how do we work it up, and how do we treat it. And so what we're going to continue is a curriculum for people of things that they should know about to help people with. Everything from contraception to oh my gosh, we've talked about so many. I had an expert in Toledo that talked about sex trafficking, which is unfortunately a huge.
I saw
thing
that episode.
Yeah, and so we're just bringing awareness to people, and especially people that are going to take care of women, and there are things that providers ought to be aware of, and questions they ought to ask that would give them a clue as to whether somebody is being trafficked. And so, just things like this that we're really trying to raise this awareness of. And I will hand this over to somebody at the end of the year. I'm actually going to completely retire. And but I'm working with some folks now that will continue this who are at Case Western Reserve Medical School here in Ohio. And so we just kind of keep morphing to just bring more information to practitioners to make them more savvy.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Doctor. We will take a brief break and be back for Chapter 2 on the Omnibus Show. Hello and welcome back to Chapter 2 of this episode of the Omnibus Show with Dr. Terry Gibbs. We also would like to thank our sponsor, the Hotel Carmichael, and this week we're in the James Hanley boardroom where we're talking with Dr. Gibbs. Now for Chapter 2, Terry, we were talking about educational aspects of sexual ed and also with the OBGYN practice. If someone is wanting to pursue an OBGYN career or are in the career, what are some pathways that you would recommend and some educational resources that would increase their capacity if they're already in practice?
I think the way I would couch this would be to say, if you are in women's care, women's health, mm-hmm. and that could include a physician, really in so many different fields. We have internal medicine docs that are a part of our board. We have urologists, we have psychologists, psychiatrists, we have nurse practitioners, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're in women's care, if you're interested in women's care, I think the best thing to do is just to get involved with some societies that will kind of give you the smorgasbord of what those fields entail and some of the subjects that they cover. And the first one that I got involved with back in 2002 was the North American Menopause Society. And it was really interesting because my first meeting was right at the end of a big study that came out that was very damning about the use of estrogen. And so the information came out on the evening news, in those 10-second sound bites. It's like estrogen bad. And it sent, everybody into a tizzy and throwing away their medicine and all this stuff. And so there was a great deal of discussion at this particular program I went to, a lot of hot discussion. And it was really amazing to really get immersed into that deep a discussion that quick. And so it was a tremendous group to be a part of. In fact, for people, whether you're a practitioner or a patient, menopause.org, that's simple, menopause.org is a wealth of information. It's a prized website. It's very good for whoever may come, whoever wants to find out what they want to find out about. And we've sent a lot of people to that site to find out about all the things that can happen to a woman and ideas on how to fix them, as well as how to find practitioners who are trained to talk to them about these issues. Again, because not everybody is.
Yes.
But I would tell people that they would to go to some of these societies and to really start to hang with people that are very immersed in these things that they're interested in knowing more about. Like Dr. Kingsberg, you talked about, I followed her around for years and went to a lot of meetings where she was talking. And from there, we met so many other people in Ohio. And that's how I became a part of this group I'm a part of. And got things started in Toledo, and then the people who were interested followed me into it. And now we have a group of people we get to talk to all the time about new things coming up and et cetera. So it's just one of those things that evolve. And once you know an area you want to learn more about, you find the societies, then you find specifically the people that are talking about the things that resonate with you, and then just go to meetings and hang out with them is how I would approach that. If you're a practitioner,
sure. If
you're a patient, I think some of these websites will tell you about a lot of the information you want to know about, and then you can find out again what doctors are very knowledgeable about the questions you have.
And on that subject, do you have a particular? Well, we'll add these links in the description, your podcast and the other podcasts at the end. But is there a particular link for patients, for female patients, in terms of assessing potential doctors that you would recommend? Because there seems to be, like, when you look up a doctor, there's all kinds of websites, and I'm talking about the OBGYN. All the subjects appertaining to that.
Yeah, I think the best place to go, there's numerous places you can go, but I think a resource like the North American Menopause Society, or NAMS, N-A-M-S, NAMS, is a great society. They're the only menopause group that has a certification that we all take. And they have the people who've taken that certification on their website. So you're looking for a NAMS certified menopause practitioner. And it's all on that one website. And I wouldn't go to a lot of other ones. I would just go to that website and see where those people are.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And is there a website for younger women who are still having babies that are looking for a good OBGYN? Let's say they've moved to a new community and they need to find a doctor, or they're wanting to find another doctor. Would you have a suggestion for a resource for them?
Yes, what I recommend to people is there's not something on the internet. Well, everybody's on the internet,
correct,
and everybody's trying to get you to come to them,
correct.
But what I would do is I would talk to friends and people you know that you like, and talk to them about their doctors and the names that keep coming up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you talk to one person, they say Dr. Smith. You talk to another person, they say Dr. Smith. And then you talk to another person and they say Dr. Smith. That's a good indicator.
Yes.
That person is probably going to be your people.
Sure.
So that's the way I would do that.
And I would think women would do much better than men, like asking each other about a urologist. Just like, I don't talk about that. Whereas women are very resource-minded.
Yes.
That's great. And then on regarding your podcast, and you are focused on the professionals. And I want to add, with the Ohio Sexual Health Collaborative, for the professionals, is there an organization for the OBGYN who are focusing on earlier, pre-menopause, adulthood, organizations that they would be that would help them in their progress?
Well, one caveat I would say is that women that are interested in figuring out more about their own sexuality can listen to this podcast. We really don't talk with real deep scientific lingo. We try and stay away from that. So
Sure.
even anybody could listen to this and get a lot out of it. I just want to throw that in there. But
Sure.
I really try and make sure that I'm helping practitioners learn a lot about the subject of sexual health. But for the person who's in women's health, there's a ton of societies out there. There's the American College of Obstetricians, Gynecologists, and there's also a big group called the International Society for the Study of Women's Sexual Health,
Okay.
or ISWSH for short, ISSWSH. And they are a big resource for sexual medicine.
Okay.
And we've worked with them a lot.
Well, that's fabulous. And I've heard your program. I follow your program. And I'm not a woman,
Thanks.
but I think you do very well in the discussion about not being too overly scientific in your nomenclature. And
We want a
that
lot of
anybody
people to
can listen
understand.
to.
Right.
And that's really good. Well, can you tell us any more? You did start in the previous chapter about what was coming up in this new year. Is there anything else you would like to share with us about your practice and your podcast that is coming up this year?
Well, this year we've really lined some real specific subjects up again. Right now we're doing there's a big push in women's health about mental health, and mental health in obstetrics. It's huge, and that's on all the women's health sites. That's coming up, talking about women's health and mental health, and we're doing a series now of the impact of mental health on sexual health. And we're just about to interview a psychologist from Ohio State University who works in the cancer department. Mm-hmm. And she's going to talk about the impact of a serious medical illness like cancer on sexual health. And again, things that just aren't talked about, but are important to people and really impact them. And so we're going to talk and make people aware that, here again, it's something you have to talk to people about, and people want to talk to you about it. And so we're going to be doing subjects like that, and that we've just got ready for the rest of the year. So there's 1,000,001 subjects, and so in this field. But that's the one, mental health is the one we're working on right now.
And that's been discussed also in a recent episode of your show.
Yes, we just discussed that.
That was very good.
Yeah, we're going to keep working on that.
Well, fabulous. Well, it was great having you on today, Doctor. And
thanks.
We look forward to your
David.
future episodes. And in the description, we will list the links to your podcast and to those organizations that you've mentioned for both medical professionals and for patients who are interested in increasing their knowledge in obstetric gynecology, feminine issues. So thank you very much for being on the show.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. And that's it for this episode, and we look forward to seeing you next time on the Omnibus Show.
If you enjoyed this program, please like, share, and subscribe to continue the conversation. For the Omnibus Show newsletter, please sign up at theomnibusshow.com.